All right, let's hit the road. Now, the reason we gathered here today is to solve one of the main questions of growth. To find out the golden rule of accumulation. The golden in the sense that, as we are all aware, as we have accepted the fact, under the neoclassical assumptions, we are all heading towards a long-run equilibrium in a harmonious fashion. There is no room for government. There is no room for regulation. There are no things like class struggle, welfare conflicts, or anything of the sort. The price mechanism, the market system on its own, is capable of delivering harmonious growth towards a long-run steady state. What is more, today's poor nations do not have to complain or be scared of anything. All they have to do is to obey the price signals. The market system, especially in terms of factor prices, profit rate, wage rate, if you follow what the profit rate dictates, then based on the technology and some parameters, depreciation, population growth rate, etc., that we have taken exogenous, will lead you towards a convergence, egalitarian, harmonious growth. That's a beautiful system. One question remains. All right, we are heading for a long-run equilibrium, steady state. Can we grow faster? Yes, we are growing, but can we optimize on our growth? The question is, how much should we save? Therefore, how much should we consume? The question is not trivial, especially for us consumers, because as I have indicated rather loosely last time, Homo economicus is on this planet because this entity is a consumption maximizer. Given the budget constraint, this entity called Homo economicus maximizes consumption at the expense of everything else within the constraints of its budget. So let me state out the problem. Here is what we are confronted. Our production function, capital per labor, that is machines per labor. Okay, that's on this axis. How much capital are we going to work with per person? And on the vertical side, we have goods per person. This production function obeys certain nice qualities: constant returns to scale, diminishing returns to capital, continuous, differentiably continuous, and it is concave in nature so that I can do a profit maximization over it. It admits a maximization problem. Teşekkür ederim. Then we have a depreciation function, delta K. And our all task is, given the production function and the depreciation rate, when we save and invest, market moves us towards a critical capital labor ratio. What happens at that critical capital labor ratio? Right, but how do I get it? Saving and investment will be equal to what? The amount of new gross investments will be equal to just barely covering the depreciation expenditures, so that there is no reason for further net capital accumulation. Why do I do that? Why should I invest and increase capital? Profit, because the market tells you that profit is positive. Stop eating, save and invest, my lad. Just continue to grow, expand. Until when? Where the net profit rate is zero, therefore there is no further incentive to invest. Now, let's analyze this. Suppose that I am a consumption-oriented economy, saving only this much. Let's call this saving rate 1 times f of k. I save a little, throwing big parties all around. Which is fine. These are tastes and preferences, very sacred. I'm not questioning anything. But the intersection of the depreciation rate with the saving function, this point is where the steady state will be. I'm going to put a star to indicate that it is a steady state and call it steady state 1, one of the possible steady states. How much do I produce? We go up to the production function, and this will be the per capita output. At this level of output, we invest this much, therefore we consume the rest. So this will be the amount that we consume. Can we do better? Well, let's consume a little bit more. Let's save a little bit more. Suppose I save higher. Now, at this particular point, observe that saving function is equal to delta k. This too is a steady state. I call this steady state number 2. Well, if you go up, now we produce more, and this will be the amount of consumption. Now, if you come close enough, the amount of consumption has increased from K1 to K2, or from saving 1 to saving 2. From very low savings, when I increased saving, output had increased, and it enabled me more consumption. Everyone is happy. I am saving more, but because I have saved more, I reached to another steady state. In so doing, what happened? When I moved from K1 to a higher saving ratio, there were reasons to accumulate more, and this increased capital for a transitory period increased the rate of growth up until Y2, and then I am stuck there. This portion is called transition dynamics. We are transitioning, that is transiting to the new steady state. There is positive growth, but it is only transitory. Neat. Let's do it once again. Higher savings, more output, more consumption. Okay, well, suppose that I increase my savings really a lot. It's really a nice game. So let's call this S3. Well, what happened now? Now I have a new steady state. So capital will start to accumulate. As capital accumulates, output will continue to rise. And we are going to come towards a third steady state. These are all long-run equilibria. But they have different configurations. Investment, consumption. And now I go up. This is the amount of production, Y3. And this will be the amount of consumption. So starting from very low level of savings, I increase savings a little bit. Capital accumulated. More output had been produced. And starting from lower levels of consumption, consumption has increased, reached a maximum, and then we realized that the amount of consumption is less than the previous cases. I am producing a lot of output, but this a lot of output requires many machines, a lot of capital. Capital depreciates, so in order to compensate for the depreciation cost of very big capital, I have to keep on saving and investing. Some of my investments go down the hill because big buildings, big machines, big capital requires big investment expenditures just to keep them running. To meet that depreciation and wear and tear, I am using a bulk share of my savings, and the rest remaining for consumption is very little. So there is a trade-off. More output does not necessarily mean more consumption possibilities. In a very influential and enjoyable to read paper, Phelps, I think it's 1961, please check it. He tackled this question by the title of A Fable for Growth Man. It's a fable. And if you read the text, there is a sultan, a benevolent sultan, who spends his entire life for good deeds of his people, And one day, the question occurred to him, we are growing fast, but can we grow faster? And can we have more food on our table? He calls up Oiko. Oiko is his vizier. Oiko contemplates a moment, and without resort to any Hamiltonians or Lagrangians or dynamic systems or what have you, no topology, no nonsense, he comes up with the simplest idea that requires somewhat knowledge of derivatives, but compared to the magnificence of the question, the answer to the fable is very simple. What's our question?
Can we grow faster?
Can we grow faster? Therefore, can we consume more? So we are trying to maximize consumption. Consumption per labor. I want to maximize this. What is our method? Well, our method is I want to choose a capital labor ratio that will enable me the maximum of consumption. So the choice is over capital labor ratio. Well, how is consumption defined? Consumption, output, F of K, minus investment, that is savings, S times F of K. So when you write consumption algebraically, output minus savings. That's what we understand by consumption. So I want to make this difference as large as possible, but you have to apply the steady state rule. But we have to respect the rules of the game, which is we have to be on the steady state. Meaning that this maximum is subject to the fact that S times F of K is always equal to delta K. I don't want any arbitrary capital labor ratio. I want the capital labor ratio, which will satisfy the steady state, long run, harmonious, neoclassical glory. Which means investments is equal to depreciation expenditures.
Shouldn't we also include the profit rate?
Profit rate will come as a byproduct. The behavior of the profit rate, its adjustment to the diminishing returns of the production function. That's what the profit rate is adjusting to. But the constraints of the system is I have to be in equilibrium between depreciation and investments. I am constraining the system such that investments will be equal to depreciation expenditures, production is given, and let the system work. The profit rate adjusts along with the diminishing returns. It delivers signals for investing. And when we reach the steady state, the system stops. There is no further growth. But now I want to make sure that when I stop under the long run equilibrium, the consumption distance is at its maximum. So what I am trying to do, I want to maximize output minus savings, subject to the fact that savings is equal to delta K. Well, if the problem is cast in this fashion, use delta K instead of S times F of K. So I can rewrite the problem as maximize F of K minus delta K. Because delta K will always be equal to S times F of K by constraint. I don't want other capital labor ratios. I want the capital labor ratios that satisfy the steady state condition. So we are looking for the golden rule of capital labor ratios, which will maximize consumption and which will put us in equilibrium. We are in equilibrium. Çok keyif verici değil mi? Yani there is no IMF, there is no McKinsey, there is no varlık fonu, there are no budget deficits. We are in equilibrium in long run that will perpetuate into the indefinite future. That is one big solution to the problems of inflation, stagflation, unemployment. All of them are carried away. You are in equilibrium. Imagine. Hani Bob Dylan diyor ya, be realistic, just demand the impossible. We are in equilibrium, and in equilibrium we are enjoying the life as its maximum on this planet. that is a big solution. And all I have to do is maximize the difference between my production function and some depreciation rate. Herkes heyecanlı mı? It is an important question. It is one of the most important questions of macroeconomics or economics, and therefore of the human nature. Well, again, the maximant is on K. So I take a derivative f prime. Şöyle yapayım. F prime. And I'm going to put double stars to it. Minus delta is equal to 0. So the solution is a capital labor ratio. 1 star is for it being at the steady state, just like here. The second star is making it the optimal consumption. Is everyone safe with using 2 stars versus 1 star? Yıllar sonra Nobel ödülü aldı. Edward Prescott. Sizin de eminim böyle hocalarınız olmuştur. Uyanırsınız. Am I missing anyone by speaking Turkish? Does everyone understand Turkish for the moment? Anyway, let me tell it in English, just in case. Hani you wake up, there is this geography teacher. Sen Türkiye'nin dağlarını çiz haritaya. I have had teachers like this. So Prescott is one of those characters teaching us dynamic macroeconomics that I couldn't remember a word of it. I mean, thanks to the guy, because he was a brilliant researcher, but somewhat lousy on the teaching side. Anyway, one day the class is full because almost all graduate students, irrespective of being registered or unregistered in his class, is coming to listen to him because the guy is always full of ideas. Anyway, one day he came in and they used to, biz neler çektik bilemem. We used to have chalks and the blackboard was really black in those times. So on the blackboard, he's scribbling something, all sorts of Greek letters. He finished them all. And the table was completely full, and we are just rushing, copying what it is. And then someone from the back said, "Sir, should that have 2 stars or should that have 1 star?" And at that point, we didn't know. I haven't noticed some variables had 1 star, most variables did not have anything, and a particular set of variables had double stars, loosely just. And he just paused a moment and said, "That's a brilliant idea. That's almost a thesis topic. Bravo." And then he arbitrarily started putting extra stars. Some of them had 3, some of them 2, some of them had none. And to this day, I looked at his book. I didn't come across that subject. Why in the hell we have had differentiated number of stars on certain particular variables? I had no idea of, that was my first year at Minnesota, just a complete shock. You're not in that state of mind, are you? We all know what this thing is the solution of all malaise on this planet. High consumption, respect to savings, respect to depreciation, respect to equilibrium. What does it say? Well, it says that if you want to have maximal consumption, the derivative of the production function must be equal to the depreciation rate. Does this make sense? Well, first of all, let's work on it. So consumption, I'm going to put a star as well to indicate its maximal consumption. If you want, put 2 stars. But consumption is defined as this one, f of k minus s times f of k. And these are now over here. Well, s times f of k should be delta k. So for this, I am going to write delta k. But delta is f prime, according to my solution. So, so for delta, I am going to write k, and this thing follows. So what do I have? Consumption per labor, maximal, right? Starry, is output evaluated at optimal capital labor ratio minus S delta K, which becomes minus F prime of K times K. This is the optimal consumption. Tell me a production function, F. I am going to tell you the capital labor ratio that maximizes consumption. Do you remember this? F of k minus f prime times k. What is it equal to? Evet, söyleyin. Wage rate. Wages is wage rate times labor. Wages. Wage rate. This is nothing but f of k minus k times f prime of k. This is the wage rate. So at this point, all wage rate per person, wages per person, or wage income should entirely be consumed. What is the net profit rate? Net profit rate, R. What was it equal to in our notation? This is the wage rate. How do you define gross profit rate? F prime? F prime minus delta. F prime is R plus delta in equilibrium. Net profit rate is F prime minus delta. By definition, this is the homework that we have worked upon. But in equilibrium, I found out that F prime will be equal to delta. So in this world, net profit rate will be 0. Now let's go back to this analysis where we have asked, well, what should we do? Well, we are trying to choose a saving rate, actually. But since at steady state, S times f of k is always equal to delta k, 1 stars. But at golden rule maximizing consumption. At golden rule steady state, we have f prime, now double starts, is equal to delta. So if you put delta instead of delta at f prime, you get s times f of k is equal to f prime of k times k. And then you can choose for your s. I'm going to put a star here saying that this is golden rule. The one that maximizes consumption, because I am applying this rule, is equal to f prime of k times k divided by f of k. F prime, what is f prime in equilibrium? R plus delta. R is 0, so it's delta, but it is gross profit rate. It tells what the gross profit rate is. F prime is the slope of this thing at the steady states. And it tells me that f prime will be equal to R plus delta due to profit maximization conditions. So f prime is gross profits. Net profit is 0. The rest of the profits go to cover the depreciation, but that's an entirely different story. Times k. So what is this magnitude? Gross profit rate times capital. Total gross profits divided by output. So S should be equal to the S, golden rule S should be equal to, telaş etmeyin, gross profits, total gross profits, divided by output. Or rather than output, let me write national income. That's what it is. Total gross profits divided by national income, F of K. What do I call this? In national income, the share of gross profits. To whom those profits go to? Capitalists, capital owners. This is share of capital. So, things to memorize for tonight. Profit rate, gross profit rate, F prime is equal to R plus delta. Net profit rate is R. Share of capital, F prime, K times K divided by F of K. Wage rate, F of K minus F prime of K times K. Profits, total profits, F prime of K times K. Important notation that you'll be using the rest of the semester, the rest of the days until you graduate, in your new career, until you retire, and you say, what did I do? I should have become or I'm so happy that I have become an economist and I enjoyed life and I have memorized this and used this for the rest of my life. Neoclassical production and distribution theory in a nutshell. How wage rate and profit rate and income shares are distributed. Give me a production function, I will tell you the share of capitalist income, the share of labor income, the profit rate, and wage rate. All right, so under the golden rule steady state, consumption per labor should be equal to the wage rate, or wage rate should be equal to the consumption per labor. Both sides are equal. And saving rate, that is S, is equal to share of capital. Very quick question. Suppose that output was Cobb-Douglas. What is share of capital? Alpha. So it is alpha. So what's the conclusion in a summary? If you want to achieve per capita consumption maximizing steady state equilibrium, per capita consumption maximizing star, steady state double stars, equilibrium, then all capital income, all profits must be saved. Capitalists must save all their income, and workers must spend all their income on consumption. This is a version of a famous dictum by Kalecki, who will say that workers spend, workers spend what they earn, and capitalists earn what they spend. They earn what they spend because their earnings, share of capital, must all go to investment and then output and etc. And workers must spend what they earn on consumption. This is an economy where workers earn wages and they spend their wages on consumption. Capitalists, okay, bigger guys, get F prime times K, and they spend all their income on saving and investment. So in an economy where there are two different classes, workers, they earn wages, and out of their wages, they must only consume, nothing else. All wages must go to consumption. And all consumption must be wage income. Capitalists must use all their income, alpha share, to savings. S will be equal to alpha. If you achieve this sort of an income distribution and consumption and saving profile, then we have the maximum available consumption and the highest rate of growth until then. So basically it's telling you this. Here we have an economy, two different types of people. Capital owners do not consume and save. That's how capital accumulates. if this is true, capitalists do what they should be doing. They must save and they should not consume. Workers, they are working and in return consuming, because if they save, they will become capitalists. The roles will be confused. So if everyone plays its own role and follows its own objective, then the society will have maximal consumption opportunities. Is this news? Well, not really. But that's the whole mathematical world beyond this. Questions? Anything you want to add? Well, let's complicate the story a little bit for a couple of more minutes. Just for asking ubiquitous questions. No, here what we had done is maximized consumption defined as f of k minus s times f of k. And the rule was f prime of k is equal to delta, or net profit rate is 0. So you may argue that, well, this is a world where consumption is maximized in the long run, but profits are driven down to 0. What happens if we maximize profits in the long run? That is, the capitalists took over the state, and they said, we don't care about consumption since we are not consuming anything. We want to set up a new constitution where from then on, Oiko will be imprisoned, topple down the government. We are now maximizing profits. And how do we define profits? Profits. F prime of k times k. I want to maximize profits. Again, let's be on the steady state, but because under the old rule, net profit rate is 0. This is the question that had been risen by Thomson, that I have distributed the article. Can you work on this? F prime, what is F prime? This is, oh, sorry. Let me rewrite this. Maximize net profits. So we are maximizing on net profits. So F prime is gross profits. I have to subtract delta K as well. So I want to maximize upon this thing. Maximize by choosing some K, the difference between F prime of K times K minus delta K. Net profits will be maximal, not today, not only tomorrow, but into the indefinite future. This is what Thomson called, not with a very clever or very elegant way of naming, but he called this maximum profits equilibrium as golden age for capital. And the maximum consumption rule as golden rule. Something is golden, but it depends on from whose side you are looking at.
Can you say it again, the difference between golden rule and
Thomson, not in a very convincing way, called the solution of this problem, that is maximizing net profits, as golden age, to distinguish it from the consumption maximizing rule, which says f prime is equal to delta, as the golden rule. Golden rule is consumption maximizing. Golden age is profit, net profit maximizing. Just to differentiate between the two, if you take the derivative of this thing, I have now a second derivative, f of double k times k plus derivative with respect to this entity, now k, stuck derivative, times f, pardon. There is no k here. Plus derivative with respect to k is simply f prime of k minus delta is equal to 0. I'm not going to put 3 stars, but I'm going to simply write golden age, golden age, golden age. This delta is delta. This is golden rule. This k and this k are different. And if you want f prime of k is equal to minus f double prime k times k plus delta. If you want to plot these, which one is bigger, do you think? So here we are. Forget about savings and depreciation. This is our output. The first one says, I have to draw a delta ray, delta k. This is my f of k. Let me clean these. The first thing says f prime. What's f prime? That's right, but how do I show it on the graph? By the tangent, right? By the slope of the tangent. And that slope, f prime, should be equal to delta. So it will be something like this. This is f prime. And if you go down, this is our golden rule steady state. And in fact, if I say put a savings now here, saving times f of k, that is s is equal to alpha. This is where I have obtained the maximal consumption. That's what I have found. First of all, this f prime, where I am using golden age k, versus this f prime. Which one is bigger? Which one is smaller? Can you see? F prime k golden rule is equal to delta versus f prime is equal to delta minus this thing. do not get fooled by this minus sign. Very good. Diminishing something. Forget about this minus sign. What is this thing inherently? F double prime. F double prime is always negative because I am assuming a belly. So this thing is inherently negative, and there is a minus sign. So this thing, together with the minus, is a positive thing. F prime, delta are the same in both sides, but plus something. And this is diminishing. So if F prime is bigger than this one, I must be to the left of, I have to have used less k so that it will have higher F prime. That is, the slope of this ray must be bigger. This is F prime of golden age. This is F prime. Here it is. F prime of the golden rule. So it must be something over here with the addition of this second derivative. The higher the capital, the lower the F prime. The less capital, the higher the F prime, because it is diminishing over time. If you use more capital, F prime falls. If you use less capital, F prime increases. So if F prime is high, then I must be using less capital. And this is the capital that will maximize profits. So if you want to make sure that net profits are maximized, then rather than this savings, you must cross the saving rate with the delta at this level. This is the golden age saving rate. In contrast to the golden rule saving rate, which is equal to capital share, the savings that maximizes net profits is less than before. Steady state is lower, output is lower, and consumption is not maximized. This is how the Solovian system works. End of the neoclassical world. You have gone through exogenous growth of the neoclassical theory. With all its, hani diplomanızda yazıyor ya, yetki ve hak ve sorumluluklarıyla. Now you are armed with the responsibilities and privileges of neoclassical growth. One chapter is closed in your lives.